وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمُ اتَّبِعُوا مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ قَالُوا بَلْ نَتَّبِعُ مَا أَلْفَيْنَا عَلَيْهِ آبَاءَنَا أَوَلَوْ كَانَ آبَاؤُهُمْ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ شَيْئًا وَلَا يَهْتَدُونَ.
Last ayah for the evening, inshallah. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ آمِنُوا اتَّبِعُوا مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ. When they're told, when it is said to them, follow what Allah has sent down. Come back to the origin. You want to follow something? What could be more worthy of being followed than what Allah sent down? You're telling me I'm following this because my parents handed this down to me. My ancestors handed this down to me. My culture is this way. Times have changed. The logic is the words change, but the logic is the same. Nowadays, youth will tell you everybody's doing it. They won't say my forefathers did it because now it's not fashionable anymore, right? Well, I'm doing this because my dad did it. Actually, now the thing to do is do the opposite of what your dad did. That's what we do as youth, right? So your new argument is everybody's doing it. What's your problem? Was everybody crazy and you're the only one that makes sense? That's the new logic. So the argument by Allah is, why don't you follow the thing that deserves to be followed the most? What Allah sent down. قالوا, they'll respond, بَلْ نَتَّبِعُوا مَا أَلْفَيْنَا عَلَيْهِ آبَاءَنَا. We're only going to follow what we stumbled our fathers following. Stumbled upon. Alfa, to find something after stumbling upon it. Meaning, we happen to be from this tradition. There's no reason for us to violate that. We happen to be part of this society, this ancestry. We're going to stick to what we have. We're happy with where we are. No thank you. No thank you. We don't need to follow anything else. أَوَلَوْ كَانَ أَبَاؤُهُمْ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ شَيْئًا. Wasn't it the case that their forefathers, their ancestors, didn't understand anything? Allah is saying, you weren't around when your ancestors made these mistakes, which you're calling tradition. Allah was shahid. Allah watched it. Allah is saying, wasn't it the case that your forefathers didn't even understand a thing? They were dumb. When they did this, they were stupid. وَلَا يَهْتَدُونَ. Nor were they committed to guidance. They were not committed to guidance at all. The word aql here, I'm reminding you, we talked about this before, to not think clearly and to let your emotions and your whims make the decisions for you. That is the opposite of aql, jahl. Allah says, لَا يَعْقِلُونَ شَيْئًا. They had no restraints. They didn't use their intellect at all. This is where they come up with these traditions. And they weren't committed to the idea, they weren't committed to guidance. They didn't want to stick to a path. You know, this is not what their forefathers were. Allah goes and directly attacks the ancestry. He directly attacks it. The last comment I'll make about this, inshallah ta'ala, and I'll close. You know, we are, especially the Muslims that are listening here, that come from any other part of the world than Arabia. If you're not from Hijaz, then you and I came to Islam through our forefathers who came into contact with Islam through the da'wah of somebody. So I, for instance, I'm of Pakistani origin and originally of Afghani origin, 3-4 generations back. My ancient ancestors are not Muslim. They were pagans. The Muslims made hijrah to that land and made da'wah to Islam, to pagans, and those, my so there's somebody up there in my lineage who used to be an idol worshipper, and some Muslim came and made da'wah to him, and he abandoned all of his traditions for Islam. And I'm sure he suffered a lot for it. And today his kids upon kids upon kids upon kids upon kids are saying La ilaha illallah because of one decision he made. And he's reaping the benefit of all of those people that became Muslim because of him. One day one of my wishes, may Allah enter all of us into Jannah, is to go into Jannah and look up that ancestor and say, thanks, granny, granddad, great-grandpa. You know, that was some good stuff. Tell me that story. I'd like to know. But I'm bringing this up for a reason. That one decision to not follow tradition and come to Islam is benefiting so many. And imagine if he didn't make that decision. Imagine if that person doesn't make that decision. Then the shirk of those following generations falls on whose head? Those mushrikoon's head themselves and his head. وَلَا يَحْمِلُنَّ أَثْقَالَهُمْ وَأَثْقَالًا مَعَ أَثْقَالِهِمْ. They will carry their own load and another load on top of their own load. It's not like their children will not be blamed. They'll be blamed too, but he'll take their load on top of that. It's enough for a mushrik to burn in hell for his own shirk. Now he's paying for the shirk of his future generations. So imagine, Muslims now, us, we set a trend of making the haram okay in our family. The haram is no big deal in my family. For your children, when the haram is no big deal. And for their children, the haram is no big deal after that. Even the door, you open the door a little bit, your children will open it a little more, and after that there won't even be a wall. Forget door. Who's going to be paying the price for that on Judgment Day? Just think about that. This ancestry that you take pride in, Allah has made that a liability on the head of a Muslim. It's a liability. We have to think about how we're going to raise our kids, because it's not just our kids. It's 5, 6, 7, 10, 20, 30, 40 generations from now. However Allah keeps this earth going, all of those future decisions are impacted by how we raise our children. What a heavy load we're carrying. That's why Allah He teaches us this dua. رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَجَعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. Make us imam over muttaqeen. On Judgment Day, all of the heads of the households were raised as imams. And these imams have chains on them. And by your chain, the people who you were in charge of are chained to you. And if those people are righteous and they reached a higher status than you, they're raising you with them. But if they're going down because of your lack of responsibility, well, you're getting dragged down with them. It's a serious concept. So we didn't just ask to be made imam, we asked to be made imam over muttaqeen, over righteous people, over people of taqwa. It's a very serious responsibility that's being discussed in these ayat. With the clash between following tradition and following our deen, and its consequences in the future. Everybody cites the past. Everybody says, I'm doing this because the past it's been done like this. That's why I'm doing it too. I'm saying we have to think about the future. Forget the past. Allah says, forget the past. They didn't understand anything. لا يعقلون شيئا ولا يهتدون. They didn't understand anything. You need to think about your future. Last comment, I promise. The Muslim family you have that wants to turn you away from the deen, you know what they tell you? Think about your future. That's what they tell you. Why are you going to the masjid? Think about your future. Why are you looking like that? Think about your future. Why did you turn that job down? Yeah, it's in this questionable industry Islamically, but I'm sure you'll find a fatwa on Google. Think about your future. They'll tell you that. They'll tell you to compromise your deen, and every time they offer you a justification, they'll say, I'm worried about your future. And your response should be, I'm more worried about my future. You're only thinking of my future for the next 10 years. I'm thinking about a life, like an endless lifetime. I'm worried about my future. That's why I'm doing this. So we have to think big. We have to start thinking bigger. And that concern that people have, they're really not thinking about your future. They're thinking about tomorrow. We're thinking about the day after tomorrow. That's how we have to think. May Allah Azza wa Jal open our eyes to the reality around us and give us all the ability to become people of the right path and raise families that are on the right path. Barakallahu li wa lakum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.